Welcome to the Noble Bereans video channel. I'm your host, Steve Sanderson. Today we're doing a book review on The Affections of Christ Jesus by Nijay Gupta. Paul mentions love over 100 times in his letters. Every single letter he wrote, it's there. And yet if you pick up most systematic theology books, you'll find love treated as a secondary theme, something that just shows up after faith, grace, and justification get their proper chapters. So this disconnect has always kind of bothered me. Now, I have studied the topic of love quite a bit, but I was really intrigued when I saw Nijay Gupta's book, The Affections of Christ Jesus, Love at the Heart of Paul's Theology. So I picked it up and I read it the way Bereans read everything, with genuine openness and genuine rigor. And today I'm going to tell you what I believe Gupta gets right and where I pushed back and what the Berean method revealed when I applied it to this book's central claims. Let's begin with this. Gupta is a New Testament scholar, highly respected with serious credentials. And the thesis of this book is clear from the title. Love isn't peripheral to Paul's theology, it's the center. Gupta builds the case across 11 chapters. Now, 5 of them are groundwork before he ever gets to Paul directly, which I'll note is a structural choice that has consequences. But the groundwork includes genuinely valuable material on Old Testament love vocabulary, Greek word studies, and how ancient cultures, including pagan ones, talked about love differently than we do. My overall assessment is this. This is solid scholarship worth having in your library. But use it as a conversation starter, not a final authority. Verify before you teach from it. I think Gupta would actually agree with that approach. All right, so let me talk about what works. There are 3 genuine strengths here. Strength number 1, the hesed foundation. The strongest material in the book deals with the Hebrew word hesed, often translated loving kindness or steadfast love. Now, scholar Catherine Sakenfield identifies 3 things that define hesed, and each one of them matters for how we understand what love looks like in practice. First, hesed is action-oriented, not feeling-focused. It's something you do, not just something you experience emotionally. Second, hesed operates within existing relationships. It's not love between strangers, but the love of those already committed to each other. Third, hesed invests in the actual thriving and flourishing of the other person, not gestures of affection, not the ancient equivalent of a box of chocolates, as Sakenfield puts it. Real investment in others' well-being. Gupta's argument is that Paul is drawing from this Hebrew tradition when he writes about love. That completely reframes what ambassadorial love looks like in daily life. We're not talking about sentiment, we're talking about covenantal, costly, other-focused action. Strength number 2, the fruit of the Spirit reframe. Now, Gupta highlights a reading of Galatians 5 that stopped me cold. Now, many of you know I have done an entire study on the fruit of the Spirit, so this was really intriguing to me. Scholar John Painter argues that the fruit of the Spirit list is really about love, singular. It's expressed 9 different ways. Through joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. These aren't 9 separate fruits. They're one fruit. Love, showing up in different contexts. Now, this is not new to me. This is actually the same thing I have believed, and I find that genuinely compelling to see other scholars talking the same way, and frankly, I think it's consistent with how Paul talks elsewhere. It also changes how you approach spiritual formation. You're not trying to cultivate 9 separate virtues. You're asking one question: where is love being expressed or withheld in this situation? Strength number 3, Christian freedom defined correctly. Gupta handles Paul's concept of freedom in a way that's both accurate and practically important. Paul's conception of Christian freedom wasn't autonomy, freedom to do whatever you want. It was freedom from sin and death, from the law, from the flesh, in order to love God and neighbor the way God intended. Scholar John Barclay captured it well. Freedom for Paul is the product of an alliance that breaks the power of previously taken for granted norms. That's ambassador language. We're freed not for ourselves, but for the calling. Now, there are some areas I push back. In fact, I have two concerns. Concern number one is overconfidence presented as settled scholarship. In chapter 3, Gupta discusses the John 21 passage. Now, you know it. The famous exchange where Jesus asks Peter 3 times, "Do you love me?" The debate about whether the different Greek words used matter. Gupta says this debate is all but settled. Now, I push back on that. Hundreds of years of debate with no substantive new evidence does not equal settled. The Berean instinct is to note where confidence exceeds the data, and frankly, this is one of those places. Similarly, in Romans 5:3, Gupta says Paul wasn't talking about every single kind of suffering, just persecution-related suffering. Now, that's a reasonable interpretation, but he presents this as fact without sufficient textual support. The Greek word thlipsis is broader than persecution alone. A good teacher flags that distinction. Concern number 2, Chapter 10's structural problem. The book shifts in Chapter 10 into a verse-by-verse commentary on Gupta's own Ephesians translation. It fell out of step with everything before, and I found myself reading this chapter without really retaining it, and also thinking that this is a really good resource, so I think it's really genuinely better material for an appendix than a chapter in the book. Now, this isn't a fatal flaw, but it's worth knowing before you read so you're not disoriented when you get there. Now, here's what I want to leave you with as ambassadors. If hesed is the right lens for understanding biblical love, action-oriented, relationship-rooted, invested in the other's flourishing, then our calling as representatives of God isn't primarily about managing our personal spiritual life. It's about showing up for the people around us in ways that cost us something. Gupta's book helped me to see that when Paul says love is the fulfillment of the law in Romans 13, he's not giving us a feeling to pursue. He's giving us a posture to embody. Love does no harm. Love invests. Love reflects the hesed of the God we represent. Now, the question for you this week is this: where in your daily life is someone depending on you to show up with that kind of love? Not sentiment, but investment. That's the ambassador challenge. As we've explored Paul's theology of love through Gupta's lens, we see that God calls us to love that is covenantal, costly, and oriented toward the flourishing of others, not because it's easy, but because it's what faithful representation of Him looks like. This week, I want to challenge you to identify one relationship where hesed-style love is called for, and to take one concrete action that invests in that person's actual well-being. If you're interested in this book, and I frankly encourage you to buy it, I'm going to have 2 links in the comments below. One is an Amazon affiliate link, and the other is a Logos affiliate link. In both cases, I would receive a small commission if you purchase through those, and those commissions go to help support this channel. If this review helped you, please subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who's serious about studying Scripture well. And remember, we're called to be more than just saved. We're called to be ambassadors who reflect Him well. I'm Steve Sanders. God bless.